I should mention, I submitted a panel for us to have a kind of special event at the convention where we would fight each other in a Let's Play.
Cool. Awesome.
We'd have a podcast versus podcast thing.
Okay.
I think because it's an anime convention, I picked Inuyasha Feudal Combat, going back to the PS2 days, because I knew none of us had played it before. So
okay, that's fair.
It's gonna be an even playing field.
Actually, I played it.
You played it?
I played a little bit of it, yeah.
You played it without me?
Yeah.
You whore! You don't play games without me. You know that.
Unfortunately for you, Nick, I have a life outside this room.
No, you don't exist outside of this room. You only in my mind, Tyler Durden. And welcome to the UGO podcast. Another Mass Effect episode gonna be
like
this
those.
week. We do love those. Man, we're so you gotta beware the Bioware on this podcast. You never know when it's gonna come up. You never know when it's gonna be on it. But who's talking the Bioware love/hate/ indifference today?
A couple people, actually.
Because it's me, Nick the Merc with a mic, and my fellow apologist,
Travis.
And man, Kyle has never been this late to a podcast. I mean, I do not know. That guy's work ethic is terrible.
We should probably replace him.
But I guess we're going to have to find his replacement and or the robot android version of him that I've been building in the basement.
I think that thing's usually late, too.
But yeah, so we're going to have to tackle this episode without him. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Kyle is taking a sabbatical. He's taking some time off from the podcast, do some personal stuff, and we wish him all the best. Love that guy. And of course, we're going to be talking about Mass Effect Andromeda today, so he wouldn't have been helpful anyway.
No.
He doesn't play any of the Bioware games, but we do. We love him, or a big fan of them anyway, most of them. But we're going to be talking about the controversial Mass Effect Andromeda release later in the episode, and we have the lovely We Are Error cast, the cast of the We Are Error cast on John and Chris, and man, always fun to have those guys on. Always love having them on, and it's going to be an in progress review because none of us have actually finished the game. We're just going to talk about some of the controversy of the release, some of the pre-patch problems that it's had. We're going to talk a little bit about the story, but basically there's almost no story spoilers in it at all. So don't worry about that.
Pretty spoiler free.
We're going to reconnect with them at some point in the future when we've all finished, and we'll do something on their show probably. So stay tuned for updates on that. And with that, and speaking of updates, we should get to the announcements. As always, want to mention Tanner Hackle Designs designed our logo, the UGO of our logo, and Kelly Main designed the Isabella the Derpy Dragon of our logo, which is absolutely adorable looking dragon. If you need some artwork done, check out her stuff, and if you need any graphics design work done, check out Tanner at his site. So. And if you want to help us out on the podcast, you can give us one of those reviews on iTunes, one of those 5-star reviews if you can. And I will, of course, read it on the podcast word for word. If we get anything in that review box for a 5-star review, that is my guarantee. I've always done that, so I'll keep that tradition up. If you want to help us out with visibility and stuff like that, or if you just want to get into regular contact with us, you can. Email at us at unapologeticgeekgoat@gmail.com. Hit us up on our Facebook page, or you can go to our Twitter at UGO Podcast, or even our Instagram, which is the same thing. Or even just leave a comment on our brand spanking new site, unapologeticgeekgoat.com, where all of our stuff in contact information is all up there and running. And with that, let's just get into the episode, shall we?
No, we shall.
Yeah. So how you been, buddy?
Since you saw me yesterday.
Since I saw you yesterday,
actually,
yes.
No, this morning.
Since I saw you in the morning, yeah.
Yes. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah? Getting any more of that Persona 5 in? No,
not much this week.
No. Well,
played a bit over the weekend.
we've been pounding out that Mass Effect so hard to get ready for the review and stuff. I haven't been able to play the new Overwatch DLC or whatever mode or whatever the hell you call it. I don't know. Instance, I guess.
Whatever you want to call it.
I know I'm not getting any of the names right, but that's how I think.
Like halfway through this episode, we're gonna remember what it's actually called. And be like, yeah, that's it.
That's the thing. That's the ticket.
That's the ticket, indeed.
Yeah, we got some interesting news to talk about today. So we could just get right into the news.
Yeah, let's see what we got.
Yeah, we have. Let's see. Well, we had the big Star Wars announcement because they had a Star Wars celebration with announcement of something called Star Wars: The Forces of Destiny, which is a new animated miniseries that they're going to have.
Really?
And it's highlighting the franchise's female heroes. So people like Leia and Daisy Ridley's character from the new movie. I forget her name. Rey. Rey. I think Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. I think even Sabine and Hera from Rebels. Okay. Which is one of my favorite shows.
So is it gonna be like shorts or what is it?
It's gonna be animated shorts, 2D animated shorts, and they're gonna be released over the summer. And apparently each adventure is going to be following different timelines based off of the character that it's following. Like Leia's story is going to be when she's battling the Empire back in the old days, like on Hoth and all that shit. And apparently Rey is going to be mostly set on Jakku before all the Star Wars Millennium Falcon shenanigans she gets into.
Okay, so prequel shit mostly.
So prequel and midquel and it's all such a big long running franchise. It's hard to tell what's part of a prequel series or whatever. And then even Padme apparently is going to have a couple stories.
Really.
The Queen turned senator, it says here, so probably some of her adventures during the Clone Wars when she was a senator. I don't know how long they're going to be, but apparently they're going to be probably Steven Universe length, 11 to 15 minutes. I would think. And I really like that actually. They are promoting their female protagonists, and that's always a good thing. And they have some strong ones that they can actually work with.
Yeah. So, and then Amidala.
Yeah, and then she won't be played by Natalie Portman this time around.
True, might be better.
I shouldn't say that. Natalie Portman seems a fine actress.
No, just those prequels weren't good for anybody.
Those prequels didn't do anyone no favors. No, that is for sure. So yeah, that sounds pretty neat. I'm gonna definitely give that a watch. I'm gonna check it out. And speaking of new female protagonists, Ghost in the Shell, while having a pretty abysmal domestic opening, apparently opens up as number one spot in overseas. Oh, actually, it's not even open. It's for its second weekend. So its international budget looks like it's going to help it out.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, not very surprising at all. But it looks like the studio will probably still lose about $60 million on the sci-fi adaptation. So yeah, that's probably based off of the brand recognition of Ghost in the Shell, probably in Japan, and just ScarJo's name, and her star power as a movie seller overseas. And yeah, apparently Ghost in the Shell Japanese response to the remake is a lot more positive.
Again, not surprising.
Not surprising. They rarely ever care about that sort of thing. And it's not my job to figure out who to tell whoever it is how offensive what it is, what you should be offended about. I mean, I would think if and mostly the hate has come from people who've spoken about our Asian American actors who are who
could have gotten that job.
Yeah, and they're kind of it's nice that the Japanese don't find this offensive at all, but I'm still out of a job, and I could have easily have that's an easy job I could have had, and I'm still playing bit characters when that was an easy role I could have had, and So yeah, for me, it doesn't really Japan being okay with it doesn't make it any better for me, like at all. Like I'm just. It's like, no, it's really uncomfortable for me to watch.
Well, they're still a little behind socially.
Well, sure, that and they've always seen their their anime characters as Caucasian with the with the way they're drawn. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's kind of like, well, her name's Motoko Kusanagi, and it's set in Neo Japan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's middling success, I guess, for that movie, because it's still might lose out money. I doubt we're gonna get that franchise they were hoping for. But speaking of franchises, we got the Fast and the Furious.
Oh God!
Which is going to be releasing tonight as this night as we're recording.
You're gonna force me to go watch that now, aren't you?
I'm going to watch it. You're gonna go watch it with me. Goddammit. I'm going to trap you in the car, and we're going to go see it at like the highest possible speed. We're going to crash into the theater. But apparently...
It just feels like that's how you should watch the movie.
But apparently one of the writers, Chris Morgan, has been quoted as saying that the franchise would only go to space for a good idea, which for me is like good enough. That means space is on the table. That means space is not a ridiculous statement for the franchise, the Fast and Furious franchise.
You've seen the franchise. You know it's not a ridiculous statement.
Oh, I know, and I'm glad that they know. And I couldn't be more excited to know that, and eventually it might go to space.
Right. F9 in space.
Yeah, I love how he's quoted as exactly saying, look, I get all versions of that question. I get, are you going to space? And please God, tell me you're not going to space, because you'll lose me if you do. And it's like, then it's a big ...
Ellipses.
The only way I would go to space is if it had something so good. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a hard kind of like, well, I don't have any plans to go to space yet, but ask me in 2 movies. I'm just wondering who told him, please God, don't go to space because you'll lose me.
Yeah, at this point, how are you... What more things could they do to actually lose you?
They're gonna fight a goddamn submarine in this one.
Right.
At this point, what could it be? What could it be? But yeah, that's exciting to see. And as far as returning franchises, we have an actor that's returning to a TV show that I think could use the revitalization. I think Manu Bennett. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Benet, probably.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Is confirmed to return as Deathstroke in Arrow, which for me is like, yay! Finally, an effective villain again in Arrow. We haven't had one of those in 3 fucking seasons. But yeah, apparently he has been a sight unseen for the last couple of seasons. I think we saw him like maybe one time in season 4, and he is or was it season 3? I forget. The point is that I missed that guy, and apparently he's going to be returning in even the season 5 finale. Yeah, so I hope that backdoors him to being more of a regular character, because I feel like he was one of the better villains of the show.
I still miss Deadshot.
I just need I miss Deadshot too. I want him to replace Merlin like really bad.
Yeah,
like where Merlin is.
I'd take that.
But Merlin is fucked off to Legends of Tomorrow, so like we don't have to worry about him in Arrow anymore.
Oh, good.
We just have to worry about the other boring archer Prometheus. But yeah, here's some exciting casting news too. We have Deadpool has finally cast Cable.
There's been so many names flying around.
So many, and finally we have a final answer, which is Josh Brolin. So that is pretty cool. And we had the gambit, because there was how many actors were being considered? There was Stephen Lang, Michael Shannon even, which I thought would have been still pretty cool. Brad Pitt was even being thrown around. And then even like a James Bond actor, Pierce Brosnan. Like it was up in the air, like who it was actually going to be. So now it's going to be Josh Brolin, and I'm just like, oh, so Josh is getting that multiple Marvel money
going across the alley.
Yeah, because he's also playing Thanos. He's the behind the purple makeup. So good for Josh. I think that's a good fit too. I actually like that a lot. I think he'll be a great straight man for Deadpool. And with that was that's all the pretty much the news I wanted to get to for today.
All right.
Unless you had anything you wanted to bring up.
I didn't have anything this week.
Bring up, we'll go to a small musical break then. We'll be back with the trailer talk and the Mass Effect Andromeda in progress review after this musical break.
Brightest day and blackest night, I'm never gonna give you up without a fight. I'm a Marvel, he's a DC, but you're the only one who's ever been inside of me as a character.
And welcome back to the UGO podcast. Trailer talk time, Travis. It's time for that to talk about them damn trailers.
Yeah.
And we let's start off with the big one today. Let's not fuck around. Let's get right to it. Because I wanna watch this fucking Thor Ragnarok trailer.
Right.
I wanna see some of this shit. I want him to Ragnarok my world. God damn it! But shitty puns aside, let's give this. Let's start it off right now. Let's go.
Oh my god.
Is dead.
Holy shit!
Hi there. What have you brought today? Tell me.
A contender.
It's main event time.
Is it with Planet Hulk?
Yes, it is.
This is amazing.
I give you your incredible. We know each other. He's a friend from work. Oh, come
Woo!
Question.
Yeah.
Did they pull that out of your wet dreams?
Yeah, they did. Oh my god, that was amazeballs. Okay, let's break it down here because there's so much to unpack. Okay, so Hela looking hella fine in this trailer. She's got that cool like antler look in the beginning, and then she's got, of course, her untransformed look because we have to show the actress or whatever.
Yeah,
and she's like, Asgard is dead. And unlike some of the other villains of the Marvel movies, when they say like it is only a matter of time before you're dead,
no, she means past tense. Really,
she gets on that shit, like almost present tense of like, technically, I guess you're dying, but whatever. You'll be dead in like 30 seconds, so whatever. And it's just like, yeah, she annihilates that place. It's interesting to see that, and then Thor gets blown off into space into another goddamn planet, I guess. I'm guessing the Rainbow Bridge like fucks up his destination and just drops his ass off on Planet Hulk. And it basically follows like, holy shit, that's the planet from Planet Hulk. Like, it follows the comics, only instead of Hulk, it's Thor getting caught up and forced into gladiator matches until we actually see motherfucking Hulk later.
As soon as I saw that he's a gladiator, I just turned to Nick. I'm like,
yeah.
Is this Planet Hulk? This is Planet Hulk?
This is Planet Hulk all over the place.
Amazing.
And, they know how to raise the stakes, too, because Hela, busts Mjolnir, destroys that shit.
Yeah. Ruh-roh.
Yeah, I don't know if they can get it back. Like, can they get that back?
I don't know the rules on
there's probably some
weapons.
There's probably some sort of shenanigans that they can use to get it back, but I thought, like, that was a once-in-a-lifetime type of weapon. I don't think you can...
Reality gem.
Yeah, I guess you could, reality gem in a way.
Anything we're going to use as an excuse.
Yeah, and then we get that split second because we get Jeff Goldblum as the I forget what he's called, but he's got to be the leader of the gladiator matches or whatever. And he's we see for a split second we see Loki sitting next to him, and I was like, oh shit, well, like, what's Loki up to? Because he was in charge of Asgard until Hela came up and fucked that shit up. Like, what happened there?
It's a good question.
And then we still don't know what the hell's up with Odin, because
right, where he is.
Yeah, because Loki kind of fucked off, made sure that he took Odin's place or whatever. So I have no idea how that factors in. But obviously he's probably invested in Thor losing this gladiator match, and I can't wait to see how this team up with Hulk works. Like, because does he change back into Bruce Banner at all? Or is he constantly the Hulk? It'll be interesting to see. And yeah, this is actually just the teaser. This is actually even the first.
This is a teaser?
This isn't even the first trailer. It's the first teaser for this fucker. And this comes out 2 weeks after, just 2 weeks before Justice League.
That's sad.
They're in trouble, boy. They're in trouble.
I mean, to be fair, this could have been a tricky trailer. It could have been something that's going to make us think this is way better than it is.
Right.
I just doubt it.
I don't know, man. It's going to be very interesting to see what is going to be happening from that. I don't know, like, maybe I don't want to get my hopes up too much, because the Thor movies, the Thor 2, it was kind of like the weaker point of Phase 2, so I should keep my expectations low. But my God, I don't know if they could have made a more exciting trailer for me, because I love the Planet Cult storyline. So I'm really glad we get to see even just a little bit of it on the big Marvel screen, since I know we won't be able to get a standalone movie for it anytime soon. So I think, man, that's fantastic, and it really works with the Thor aesthetic, because Thor was always kind of this weird. They made Thor in the movies this weird space magic Vikings, where they were never really like Vikings like they are in the comics, where it's all fantasy. It's always kind of, it's fantasy, but with like this sci-fi sheen on it. Like everyone's got like the power armor, but they
have spears, but they're like laser spears.
But they turn into lasers, and they have like boats, but they also fly.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird mix, and it makes it to where it makes the interplanetary stuff work even more for me. We get to see a little bit of Carl Urban as the Annihilator, or whatever the hell he's called. No, wait, that's the bad guy from the first one. I forget what his actual name is, but I think he's supposed to be the underling of Hela or something in this one. So yeah, I cannot wait. Another great installment from Marvel, hopefully.
Well, I mean, between this and Guardians of the Galaxy 2, like,
gonna be a good year.
It's gonna be
a good year. Goddamn
it!
Man, I can't even, Travis. Sometimes I can even, sometimes I can, but not right now. I can't even.
Well, should we continue on and see if we can top this?
Yes, considering that I can't go on for this. Let's move on to our next trailer. Let's watch the next trailer for Atomic Blonde.
Okay.
Yeah, the Charlize Theron film.
Ow!
Safety first.
David Parsons, your contact.
Welcome to Berlin. I'm David.
Shit!
Don't shoot. I've got your shoe.
I was me from the moment my feet touched the ground.
This was never part of the plan.
It was part of mine.
I've lost the target.
What do you know about this woman who's been following me?
You look like you need saving.
So you made contact with the French operative?
Obviously.
Ow.
The clock is ticking, and everyone you get close to ends up dead.
Someone set me up. someone from the inside. Now, this only ends one way. A bullet.
Ready for action. Reach out, touch, babe. So follow me up, 'cause this shit about to go. Reach out, touch, babe. But there's nowhere to go, and there's no way to slow. If I knew what I knew in the past, I would have been like that on your ass. Reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out, touch, babe.
Oh my God, I think I love you.
That's too bad.
Woo, so that was the trailer for Atomic Blonde.
Well, that was exhausting.
That was very exhausting. Now, here's the interesting thing, because as cool as the action was in that trailer, I've heard apparently this film got a early screening a little back when at I think it was Fantastic Fest.
Okay.
And apparently people are saying that like it's actually a really slow suspense film for the first like hour. Like almost none of that action stuff happens until like the very end of the film.
Yeah, sounds very much like the American then.
Yeah, or that's actually a really good comparison. The George Clooney film, I remember that right. And yeah, so that it sounds like, because that this trailer sells like a big ass action movie,
non-stop action,
and yeah, like almost non-stop. So it's going to be interesting to see how it actually translates. I really like James McAvoy as this scrubby little contact that she has. That's interesting too, because she has to meet him pretty early in the film, and it looks like there's at least a car chase / car fight with a shoe in there, so we probably get at least a little bit of that.
Some action, yeah.
I'm thinking that the I don't know when the cop fight takes place, when she like takes out those two cops. But I'm imagining that's going to be earlier, but it sounds like it might be more of a fit for its comic book adaptations, which are a little drier. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, and I don't think that would be too bad for me, especially if it ends strong. As long as it doesn't lose me in the first hour, as long as that character stuff is enough to get me through it.
I mean, I'm kind of liking, from what I've seen from the trailer, of Charlize Theron's go at this character, because she's playing this very dry, and I kind of like it. Like, even when she, like, something gets shown, it's like, this is a very emotional part, she just plays it really dry. And, like, I kind of like it. So, it could be fun.
Yeah, it's someone she obviously cares about. Is like, did you know? I'm like, well, enough to say hello. And it's like, it's always that cagey kind of like, you never say what you fully mean, even as a spy. You never give up more than you absolutely need to. So I get that. I'm really liking Charlize Theron lately, and her body of work is getting bigger and more diverse and even better. So, and we will be seeing her tonight in Fate of the Furious as well.
Of course.
I'm glad to see her continuing this foray into badassery. But with that, should we see
and the monkey business?
But with that, should we see someone else's foray into badassery with Ryan Reynolds? And he's teaming up with Sam Jackson.
Ooh.
Sam Jackson in Jackson. It's a horrible hybrid of Hugh Jackman and Sam Jackson. It's Sam Jackson Jackman. Sam Jackman. He's a wonderful dancer, but he scares you when he yells,
which is always.
Yeah. Man, I asked you something, bub. I asked you. I'm the Wolverine. goddammit. I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. But yeah, let's see him and his team up with Ryan Reynolds in something called The Hitman's Bodyguard.
I'm a AAA rated executive protection agent. And you're the most wanted hitman in the world. My job is to keep you out of harm's way.
Oh shit! You don't punch Sam Jackson like that.
1 hour without me. Fuck you! Eat my ass! That's what she said! No, odds in that, Joe. Just gotta find a more intelligent way. Ooh! Oh, motherfucker! Holy fucking shit.
Yeah?
I hope
they kill him, I really do. This guy single-handedly ruined the word motherfucker.
I mean...
I was up here. God damn it!
I will bust a cap in your ass.
Have you ever said please?
Please, motherfucker!
Why are we always yelling?
Jesus Christ! Really? What happened to the seatbelt rule?
Okay. So that was the trailer for the Hitman's Bodyguard.
That was amazing.
Which apparently stars Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson being the titular hitman, and Ryan Reynolds being the titular bodyguard. And having, I guess, a hitman needs a bodyguard. Like, I guess
not according to Sam Jackson.
That makes a certain amount of sense, but we've never seen that in a movie. Usually, we know the hitman is this lone wolf character that, you know, gets in and gets out and doesn't really need a protection detail or whatever. I think what really sold me was when Ryan Reynolds first punches Sam Jackson in the face.
You can't do that.
I was like, oh my god.
Can he do that?
I don't know if we can do that. It was just like, fuck you. Fuck you. And it's so funny because it's like Ryan Reynolds is not making fun of the characters, but making fun of Sam Jackson.
Right. Just his whole entire, acting career.
Why are we always yelling? This man single-handedly ruined the word motherfucker.
That's fantastic.
And I'm just like, oh my god, that's hilarious. Hopefully it can keep that meta commentary kind of up throughout most of the film. And of course, their antagonistic chemistry seems to be kind of fun.
I mean, I like Ryan Reynolds as a straight man.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Well, he's. I don't think they're either of them. Well, I guess
I think Ryan Reynolds is.
He might actually be kind of the straight man, but
it seems weird, but he is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see Deadpool and Nick Fury team up for a movie.
Right?
I want to see that really bad.
Except opposite personalities.
Please, motherfucker. I only have a couple things detractors from the trailer is that some of the action looks a little weird at times. Like it has that it reminded me of some shots of some not like a kind of quick cut action like Luc Besson stuff to where it looks kind of I don't know, like it's not shaky cam or anything, but the way it's cut makes it might lose impact of what's actually going on. But it could be just that we just watched the Atomic Blonde trailer where we felt every hit of it. So we might not have done ourselves a favor by watching that one first. But yeah, as far as just the comedy chops for it, I think that the acting level is obviously there.
Right.
I hope that it works out because Ryan Reynolds really needs something that isn't Deadpool to take off for him. I would really like that for him so that I can see him in better stuff. But yeah, I would say that this trailer talk has been a pretty successful one because I want to see all three of these.
Yeah, For this one, it's more the fact that both those actors tend to be really good in movies that they like, and if this is something like that, then it should be a good movie.
Yeah, and I wonder like them working together what that chemistry will be like because I don't think we've seen Sam Jackson work off of other white boys before, a la the reverse Denzel Washington effect,
right?
Where it's like I'm gonna make a whole career where every other movie Denzel Washington does like taking a white guy under his belt to either scare the shit out of him or to like make him better. So I'm like, maybe that we can keep that tradition up with Sam Jackson. We can have him be the carry that torch. Because I like that. But yeah, with that, I think that's the trailer talk for today. That's all I got for it. I'm spent. I can't get more excited.
You're
for
all
anything.
done, huh?
I'm all done, man. Speaking of, but you know what? I will get more erect for Mass Effect. Like I'll get my refractory period backwards after this small musical break, and when we're back, I will be mass erect for it, if you will.
Gross.
Indeed. So tune in after the musical break for our talk with the We Are Air guys about Mass Effect Andromeda and all that good jazz. And we'll be back right after this.
When the boss looks to laugh for, take it in your heart now, lover. When the case is out and tarred and sodden, take it in your heart, take it in your heart.
And welcome back to the UGO podcast. And of course, we got our bestest interviewers. I think we can call them that, right,
at
Travis?
This point, I think it's true.
At this point, they're at least the ones that have been on the most, and that's got to count for
They're
something.
our most willing victims.
Yes, they are willing to put up with us that much. And of course, we were talking about the We Are Error crew, cast of oneofus.net. You guys want to say hi?
John, we're the bestest guests on Unapologetic Geek Out.
I'm apparently just into BDSM, I guess is what it is.
Yeah, that is what Yes, I am Chris Herman.
And I am John Romo.
Yes, and would you like to tell the people again where they can find your stuff, your great podcast, all your video game goodness?
You can find us at oneofus.net. I was about to say .com.
That's a special site.
So something you'll find out once you start listening to our shows is there's frequently some mistakes, and that's where the name comes from. And also Zelda 2.
Yes, Zelda 2. Yeah, you can also find us at We Are Errorcast on Twitter. You can find me at Chris J. Herman. Joe, where can people find you?
_ John Romo.
There we go. We're all set now.
All right.
No, hold on just a second. Chris, you're getting a little quieter again. I'm having a hard time hearing you again. Travis, are you having a hard time?
It is a little distant.
Can you hear me now?
I think it's probably because he's coming primarily through my microphone when he talks, but it's recording through his.
Oh, it's recording through his. Oh, so we're getting it through there. Okay, so that shouldn't be a problem then.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can hear him enough, so.
So you can
as
still
long as we can hear him.
Do I sound okay now?
Yeah, it's actually better.
I just want to be able to understand your eloquent words. You know?
Okay. All right.
I want to be able to hear that Buffalo accent in all its glory.
It's going to come through really thick.
Say King Kong for me one time.
King
Yay!
Kong.
That's my favorite thing, Travis. That's my favorite. But yes, and we brought these lovely gentlemen here to talk with us a little bit about Mass Effect Andromeda.
I was going to say we should prompt them about reviewing the best game in a while, but we aren't talking about, Horizon Zero Dawn, so...
Or Zelda.
Or Breath of the Wild.
I hear Breath of the Wild's pretty good. You know what? And I thought it was important for us to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda because I feel like no one else is talking about it. That's for sure.
Well, lots of people are talking about it.
No one else is even mentioning it. So I feel like we got to put our 2 cents in on it. But yeah, obviously had a little bit of a rough launch and is getting some criticism thrown its way. I don't know about you guys, but we've experienced some glitches. Although it looks like we are making a Let's Play right now, going through it, and that's been interesting. That's the first time I've played a game all the way through, like a Bioware game, as a Let's Play. And we are decidedly lacking a lot of the game-breaking glitches.
Well, Liam just took a walk outside.
Yes, he actually did commit suicide. It was really funny. He was done with the world. We were mean to him one too many times. Well, I told you, Travis, we had to, when we made him take off that shirt, it was sexual harassment. I told you it was a slippery slope.
I guess it was true.
There were the signs, they were all there. But yeah, it was actually disappointing on that end because I thought, like, man, that'll make for a fun Let's Play if we get some of those game-breaking ones. But yeah, overall, what has been your guys' first experience for Mass Effect?
Well, my face has just been so tired playing this game.
So very tired.
Yep.
It really has. Initially, for like the first, I'd say 10 to 15 hours, my feeling was disappointment. I've been a lifelong Mass Effect fan since the original game back in 2007. And so when I knew that we're going to get this game like 5 years after Mass Effect 3, I had pretty high expectations. I expected a lot. I think we
got that. I think we actually got that on previous talk with you guys. Was that you guys were really excited and we were kind of middling.
We were down, and I was down for a while. But then there's some asshole got my expectations super high. Some dude with a Buffalo accent with some sort of video game podcast ended up just hyping me up super much.
Well, there was actually the combat trailer. We got excited about that too.
Oh yeah, we did like the combat trailer. But yeah, a lot of hype, and we should state up front too. None of us are quite done with the game yet. This is more of an in progress feelings review and talking about some of the controversy surrounding it, and we'll probably be back with our full thoughts on when we are done with the game. But yeah, John, how about you? What was your first initial thoughts?
This is about what I expected. I was while Chris was very high on it, I was, as someone who's had the most experience with the first one, I was like, it can only go up from here. And it just is right there in the middle. I did have some glitches, as I'm sure we'll get into, but nothing where I was just like, oh, this is the worst. It's just more like, okay, like this is a game that is released. And that's kind of how I feel about it in general. Yeah,
and that's interesting to say here because I think this game has problems and glitches, and they patched some stuff even before release because a lot of people are showing the glitches and issues from the early access reviews that they got, and those are just not like common glitches that we've run into. So I'm wondering how much of that is represented in the actual launch game. But for me, I think the fact is that people seem to be more mad about this because we expected better from BioWare. Like, we expected BioWare is usually a name of quality, and I guess we just kind of expected a little bit more. And for me, I've only had experience launch day playing a BioWare game for Dragon Age Inquisition, because I came late to the party on all the BioWare games after all the patches and all the stuff was smoothed out. So this is the first Mass Effect game I've played on release. And it actually reminded me a lot of Inquisition, actually. It's got a more open world. The pacing is a little more not as tight to fit with a more exploratory element. And the character work on it, which is the most important thing of a BioWare game, at least in my opinion, is that the characters are not terrible, like some people are saying. They are nowhere near as fleshed out as the crew, say, in Mass Effect 2 and 3. But the thing with those games is they get multiple games to flesh out a story with them. So if you take this as the first chapter of their story, I think it's like, no, this is a good starting point for these characters. It's a fact that we have to, it's not, they've already said they plan this as a trilogy. And, so obviously, like, well, we plan to do more with these characters, so it's hard to judge on that aspect of it. Well, I don't know. What do you guys feel about our new squad mates in Mass Effect Andromeda?
Well, the one comment I would make is that I felt like they wanted to fast track a lot of the relationships with some of these companion characters you have. Like, with like Liam in particular, kind of stood out to me where it's like I meet him, like we have the first mission together, and then he immediately wants to be my best friend like an hour later. It felt like really weird and awkward. It's not like, when I met Garrus or Kaidan or any of the other characters in Mass Effect 1, it didn't feel like sure, we were bonding like over all these missions and experiences together, but we kind of started out as comrades, not so much friends. Where in Mass Effect 2, you started to get like a little bit more of that, and by 3, we were like all family. Whereas for here, it's like everyone wants to be like, no, we're brothers and sisters and that kind of thing. Like, oh, we all want to fuck you. It's just like, okay, let's settle down here for a sec. It just felt a little awkward that BioWare was just pushing relationship stuff to a degree that I didn't think it was ready yet. It didn't feel natural to me.
See, I think the big key in a lot of this, in my opinion, being so like, well, it's fine, is that I didn't have the expectation that Chris had. So like, I think there is a specific scene with Liam where you like sit down and like have a beer with him or whatever. I did think that the transition of that was kind of weird. Like they were setting it up as a set piece so specifically, but this idea that he's all alone, and it's kind of like the sense of first in college, you kind of find someone who's somewhat like you and you're like, okay, you're my best friend, because you're so thirsty for a friend at that moment because you are all alone. And I think the idea that they are so new in this new galaxy, and a lot of them have left their whole lives behind, that they want to try and make these connections quickly or test the waters for these connections because this is who they've got, and they've got to, make do with what they're with. So.
Well, not only that, but they're all stuck on this ship. They basically have not much choice but to get along. But but I do kind of agree that it feels like BioWare rushes through. But I think that's because they realized we were going to draw a lot of comparisons to like Mass Effect 1, and they definitely did try jump-starting it, but I think it was just the fact that they wanted to make the game more likable in that way, which maybe they didn't do the best way of it, but...
I can say one thing about this game, though, is that regarding the character work and all that stuff that comes in the later hours of the game does get better as you go along. It gets more compelling and more involving. And the real hard part of the first couple hours especially is this... the first mission isn't too bad, where it's introducing you to the characters and the initial characters in the world, but then you hit the Nexus, your new Citadel, and you get a lot of plot dump, a lot of exposition about what's new in this galaxy, what's been going on the year you haven't been there, and it's just this big catch up. And it's basically their way of like, well, we didn't want to have to write our way out of Mass Effect 3's ending, so instead we decided to ship everybody off to this new galaxy, which means we had to leave a lot of the interesting plot stuff behind. Like, this is the game with, like, the least amount of races of any Mass Effect game. Like, there's no Batarians, no Hanar, no Elcor, no Quarians, no Geth. We get parsed down to, like, the main 4 species, and then we get a new species with the Angara, and we get the Ket, who are, like, technically more interesting Reapers/collectors. At least as far as I've played with them, because the real problem with the beginning of the game is there's no way to restart a franchise on a level where you left off the last franchise. You have to pick up with new characters and get established and start from zero, when before you were like, you could, with the previous sequels, you can kind of jettison in at a cruise. I don't know, what did you guys think about the opening of the new galaxy in Andromeda?
Well, initially when the game first opens, when you're kind of on the Hyperion, the human arc, I like that. And when you're like finally going to touch down that planet and everything, it's like, okay, this feels like a cool way to introduce your sci-fi franchise. I appreciated that. That was fine. And like
with Clancy Brown Dad?
With Clancy Brown Dad, although I hated that character because I hated the fact that he was like this brilliant everyman. Not only is he like an N7 soldier, like the best of the human military, but he's also this super scientist who designed this AI, and, you know, he's one of the founders of the initiative. It's like, okay, he apparently can do everything. It's like, okay, whatever. But
except be a dad.
Yeah, exactly. But
he didn't have time to be a dad, Travis. It was acquiring all those other skills.
Right.
But in regards to when you first land on the Nexus, I agree. I thought they were dropping so much information, and even though I know a lot about this stuff that they were talking about, I felt overwhelmed. I thought, this is not a great introduction for someone who's, you know, this is their first Mass Effect game. This would just be too overwhelming. Be like, wait, what species is this? Like, okay, what species hates each other? It's like, in the original Mass Effect, they introduced all these concepts to you very, you know, slowly at first, you know, but something you can ingest the knowledge over time. Like, even when you're on the Citadel at first, like, you can explore all these different things at your own kind of leisure. Where here, they're just throwing information you left and right. And it doesn't help, too, that a lot of the voice actors in the Nexus aren't particularly very good, and the way they deliver a lot of their expositions is like, God, I am so bored, I never want to talk to you again. Skip. Okay, see you later. That's what I did.
Thank you for bringing that up, Chris, because I could not agree with you more about especially there's the Nexus. What's weird about the Nexus is that the voice acting is at its worst in the Nexus, and the animations are at the worst at the Nexus. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, they decided the place where we're going to put the most of the start of our game, that's where we're not going to prioritize any assets in fleshing out the animations and the emotions or lack of emotions of the characters, and have this really deadpan delivery on most things. And that brings us to, of course, director My Face is Tired Addison. This is the meme that you'll see on all your social media feeds of her, you know, exclaiming how tired she is, and in this emotionless face,
like dead stare.
It is distracting, and
I think Kyle actually walked in on us during that moment.
He walked in and was like, what this. I think I made the comment, like, I feel like she's trying to take my soul away from me via her dead eyes. And I think that's the main thing, is that their eyes just aren't alive. And when you're talking to somebody, you're kind of maintaining eye contact with them. So it's weird that they didn't, the patch, the 1.5 patch that they end up doing actually added texture to the eyes. Like that was their priority to make that look better. And it did make it look a lot better. It actually pulled it away from the Uncanny Valley a lot for me. But it was hard when we already played most of the game without that. And yeah, the animations wouldn't be so bad, except for the BioWare games have always been more about like your story interactions between people. So when you're having a hard time, when you're noticing animation issues during conversations, you're just automatically less engaged emotionally with what's going on between these two characters. And yeah, as far as the Nexus, that brings up another problem I have with the game, which is that there are some things that are just, for coming out to a new world, a new scenario for a new game, everything feels very similar for quite a while. Which is hey, here's the Nexus, it's the new Citadel, and here you find the new it's the Tempest, it's your new Normandy. Here's your new crew. Oh, go to Kadara, which is basically the new Afterlife, and meet with Sloane, who's the new Arya. And it's like you're meeting all these people, and then even the Nexus have their own government that feel way too much like the stupid council from the first game. Or no, actually they shoved all the council members and combined them into one character, Tan, who I absolutely hate.
Like, we do everything we can just to spite him.
It's like, fuck Tan. You Solarian bastard. You frog-faced motherfucker. You see, that's what he gets me. He brings out the inner Solarian racist to me. But then, when the game really picked up for me, I'm not sure when you guys started to turn on it, but for me it was when we did the Angoran, when we first met with the Angoran. Or Angaran, sorry. And, we actually got treated like, oh my god, it's the first contact with aliens, but we're the alien, like, that's coming down. And there's even a little moment of scanning where Sam says, hey, there's a thing to scan, and by this point, it's almost an autonomic response for me to scan something. So when I bring up to scan, they bring up their guns like, hey, what the fuck is that? I'm like, oh, shit, sorry, yeah, it's right, it's just a glowy thing on my arm, it's not a weapon. Hey, he's got a glowy thing, shoot him, no! And yeah, so that's where I was like, okay, this feels different. This feels, like it's actually a different experience than what I experienced in any other Mass Effect game. Did you guys have a similar turnaround at that point at all?
Well, John, I just want to hear what your thoughts on were in introduction to the game, both like the first mission and the Nexus first.
Oh, yeah. I obviously play these games a little differently than you guys. I think it's just because I'm not a hardcore RPG guy. So things like the facial animations, I didn't notice because I told you, Chris, off mic before that I read the subtitles and just skip ahead because, like, I don't know. It's just, that's how I played the first Mass Effect 2, is just, I'm just going to read the subtitles, get ahead, because I don't want to sit here and listen to this rote, regular sci-fi. And maybe that's a lot of what this game seemed like too. Nothing about it was outwardly interesting, especially initially, because like you guys had said, it's kind of a copy of what had come before. Like, okay, yes, this is the Citadel. Okay, I've seen these characters. I get these archetypes. And especially his dad is just like so Commander Chief John Smith, blandy bland over here. Like, I don't know. None of that ever caught me off or on guard. I will say, I think the Nexus is somewhat, you know, you guys are talking about where the animations may be the worst. I think because this game kind of puts exploration first. There's a No Man's Sky vibe to some of the stuff, especially the scanning and the whole, you know, you start off on a planet and all your little mission points are all the way across the planet. You know, speak on, I wish there was a better way to traverse the planet.
Oh yeah.
But that's just my guesstimation if I'm playing devil's advocate there. But, in regards to where a turn happened, it was actually much earlier than that because it was the first point in which I got interested. It's on Eos, I think is the planet title.
The first one?
The first title. The first planet. When you meet PB and Drac, because both of their personalities are explosive in two very different directions. And I will say, you know, you guys were kind of bad-mouthing the way it kind of just like jump starts a lot of things. And that's usually my problem with RPGs. It's like, really slow. And especially with Mass Effect Andromeda, it was like, I understand what the point of the game is. So like, you don't have to just babysit me and walk me through everything. So when PB and Drac are just like so in your face, like, these are their personalities, like it or hate it. And it's like, yeah, I like that. I get it. I understand who PB is, and I love PB. Like, PB's awesome. And I get Drac, and he's like such a grandpa-y gramps. And it's like, I don't know.
We make fun of his age all the time.
And it's it's, you get what his central character trait is, and it's like, do you like this enough to dig deeper? Then go ahead. But if you don't, then don't. And it puts it up front. Is this something I'm interested in, rather than me having to read 8 audio books or listen to 17 audio logs before I finally decide, okay, this is something I'm interested in. So I like that it's upfront about that, because I can decide early on what to dig into more.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, John. I mean, I had like 2 turning points in the beginning. One, when I started to like the characters, actually was with the introduction of Vetra, who to me feels like a combination between Garrus and Talia. I like the fact that she's kind of a mercenary, and she's a person that knows everybody, and she can get what, she can get for you. Like, I like that. Like, she was different than Liam, who was always like, I want to be your best friend, and Cora, who's just like, hates you and so cold to you, at least initially in the beginning. It's just like, okay, I get it. I've seen these kind of characters before.
She's our Miranda / Cassandra / Morgan, whatever. Like,
she's all of those things.
Every BioWare has the cold Ice Queen character for whatever reason.
Yeah, I just found that so boring. But with Vetra, it's like, okay, this is refreshing. You feel like a real person, even though you're an alien, which is that was pretty cool. But yeah, when I was on EOS, when I met PB and Drac, and when I was finally starting to use my combat abilities, when I was in that vault, the Remnant Vault, and blasting all these enemies, using my kind of energy drain in combination with my warp and inferno, and just like kind of doing these really unique combo explosions, like, that was awesome. Like, to me, the game was at its best when I was like in combat at the time, and I think we'll get into more of the gameplay later on, but at least that's for me. Those are the kind of the 2 turning points in the game where like I started to enjoy myself.
Sure. Well, why don't we get into that right now, because we should talk about the combat a little bit, because we talked a little bit some of our disappointments of the game, but one of the things I really did like about it was the combat system, which they've switched it up a little bit. It's no longer stuck cover combat system. It's more of this auto cover system that's actually intentionally supposed to make you a little more vulnerable to enemy fire. And so you have to stick and move and move a lot more with like your jump jet, which was a great addition. Whoever decided to add jetpacks into the space game, yes, you get an extra gold star. And yeah, the combat abilities are actually pretty neat. They let you basically build your own out of all the available skill trees, so you can build some neat combinations. We have we ended up with an engineer.
We started with a sentinel, and then we decided that we actually just liked the tech abilities a lot better, so we just went pure engineer.
Mm-hmm. And then we upped our recharge rate, and we were so heavy used on powers.
On detonators, specifically.
On detonating combos, so we're basically like just throwing power grenades all over the place.
Yeah, because like both of our attack skills are both primers and detonators, so we just explode everything.
So yeah, the combat, I feel, is actually, it makes it a little more engaging when you're constantly running around and doing stuff, even especially in the early game, where, one of a guy who cuts to your flank, even if it's just one of the lower enemies, can really fuck you over if he gets shots in and downs your shield at the wrong time.
Yeah, because I don't know about you guys, but we had a bit of a learning curve for this combat system. It was just different enough from the other Mass Effect games that we found ourselves in tight situations at times.
Yeah. How did John feel about how about the combat system? So he's only played one. He only played Mass Effect 1.
Okay, well, I have played through a good chunk of Mass Effect 2, and I really do.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, and man, those 2 games are night and day.
I know, they're so different.
I really do like the combat system. At least my initial thoughts on Mass Effect 2, I do like the combat system in Mass Effect 2. In this one, that automatic cover is not a good design. That is bad. Like, just general game design, I don't think it makes sense. There's an instance or two where I do the dodge jetpack thing, and it goes right into cover, and I think that's brilliant. But other than that, it usually, I want to know when I'm going into cover, and there are instances when I think I'm about to, and I'm just standing up, and it kills the flow. And especially when you throw in something like the thruster packs, it's got to be all about flow. Something else is I upgraded my abilities, so where my dodge thing is now a blink type ability. Mm-hmm. I hate that. I just like it throws off the distance and I can't see what's happening. And it's just, I had the same feeling in a game called Enter the Gungeon where the same thing happens and it's not the same distance and it throws off everything and I had to get readjusted.
It's the infiltrator ability, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing where it felt like shorter than the other dodge rolls.
Yeah, and it's I like the idea that they had behind it. It naturally it is cool that, you know, that's how it would upgrade, but it's just it throws it off. I will, to speak to what you guys talked about, the leveling up and how that works. I think that's awesome. I think it puts a fluidity into the kind of style you want to play. The way you guys said you started off as Sentinels and then eventually you like the engineer stuff better. So you're like, okay, well, I'll just be an engineer now. And they make it really easy to do that. I think I started off purely as soldier at first because I'm so bland. But then I started to really like the energy drain ability because I'm always about a new way to get health, especially if I come up in a sticky situation. So I switch.
I think we all use the energy drain ability.
It's awesome.
Like, we all use it.
So I don't know what that one is called, but eventually I also found that I really liked the like force ground punch Nova, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So now I'm just an all-around guy and an explorer. But I do find myself looking at, you know, other abilities in the tech tree or the biotics tree. And it's something, you know, from the other Mass Effect games, I never really found myself forced to kind of look at. It forces you to look at every kind of ability, and one might just catch your interest and you like decide to try it out. And then you just find yourself playing a different style. And I think the game really lends itself to that fluidity, and it comes across great in that leveling up system.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, John. I love the leveling up system and all different skills that you can use, and you can even respec your skills by, you know, obviously like paying credits or whatever. But then you can try a totally different build if you want. I think that's really cool. And yeah, all these combinations. I also agree with you. I hate the fact that I can't lock on to cover. Or it's like I don't even know when I'm in cover sometimes. Like I'm like I think I am, and I'm getting shot. It's like I'm not close enough to it. It's like there's a reason why games were copying Gears of War for like 10 years afterwards, because they nailed it. That is a fantastic covering system. And some people say like, oh, but they want something different. But if it works and it feels good, then just stick with it. And yeah, it was very odd to decide to do that. But other than that, I love that the verticality and the more movement you do and kind of moving around the battlefield and shooting. And again, also I love all the different weapons that you have offered to you as well. I mean, that was great. I primarily stuck with like a shotgun and assault rifle. Build.
Oh sure. We love the shotgun. Should we talk about the crafting system?
Well, I want to get to mine a little bit.
You want to? Okay.
Because Nick and I are playing a Let's Play together, but I also created my own character just to try something else. And if you guys ever watch the Let's Plays with me, half the time you see our character just run off into the middle of the battlefield and start killing everything. That's usually me, because I don't like the cover system either. Normally in the Mass Effect games I would always play a biotic user, because I like just more passive, just being able to throw things and make the singularities. Where in this game I had problems doing that, because half the time I just get, I would be in cover and I'd die. So I started actually messing around with basically being a frontline biotic character. My character is still purely biotic, but I just used a combination of the Annihilation Field and the Lance abilities. Basically go up to me like, okay, I'm going to shoot you till you die. And I'm not even in cover anymore. I got the charge ability, and I just kind of zoom around the battlefield and say, fuck it, to cover.
And I think that's what they want. I'm not sure if the Mass Effect 3's cover system would work in this open world of a game where you have enemies that can come at you from so many different angles. You need more movement, and in order to have more movement, you need to sacrifice one or two things in the combat system. Maybe they shouldn't have sacrificed the snap cover system.
Yeah.
But they needed to be a little more like, you need to be able to move whenever, so you can't be snapped to cover. I'm not sure. Obviously, for me, it worked well enough in the single player. I think it was a terrible choice from the multiplayer.
Oh, definitely.
I think the multiplayer is pretty. When you're in a tough situation where you're like have to fight so many enemies and you're basically trying to hide behind cover, that auto cover system will fuck you every time. But should we talk about the crafting system for a minute?
Sure.
Because another way it reminded me of Dragon Age Inquisition was that it introduced a crafting system, and I like this one better than Dragon Age's crafting system.
Well, we use it
because we actually used it. And the problem with Dragon Age's crafting system is that any items every time you'd find every time you'd craft an item, you'd find one that was better like an hour later. and it felt like, oh, well, why did I put so much time into gathering resources for this weapon that I almost immediately replaced? In this one, even if you find a higher tier weapon, you won't get the special abilities from the crafting. So you actually, the crafting, like the homing bullets that you can use to make a shotgun suddenly long range, which is rad. You can add sticker grenades to lasers like we did.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your bullets bounce off of flat surfaces and enemies. You can have some crazy fun. Like, they've never had this much of fun mix-up of weapons in a Mass Effect game before, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. What do you guys think about the new crafting system?
I'll agree and disagree with you to a certain extent. I actually really did like the Dragon Age Inquisition crafting system. Maybe it was just because I was playing a mage. I typically would always create like a very powerful staff, and like I didn't find like a more powerful one until like 10 hours later. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I can use this one now. And then by that point I had so many resources and gold because I basically tripped the economy, and I basically gave myself like millions and millions of dollars worth of gold. I was just like, I can create anything I want. My problem with the Mass Effect Andromeda crafting system is that they introduced this kind of like this additional like point system where it's like you have like these Milky Way galaxy points, these remnant galaxy points, and these galaxy points.
Whatever the fuck they are.
And that prevents you, like, you have to collect all these points over time, and that prevents you from upgrading to the next tier of weapon. Even though I have this infinite amount of materials to create all these weapons, it's just like, because I'm forced to constantly scan shit, to rack up these points, or forced to play multiplayer, or send out my multiplayer team, strike team, where the hell it is, and they complete this mission in 8 hours or however, 24 hours, like ridiculous. It takes so much time to finally get those points in order to craft weapons. That was really frustrating. Other than that, yeah, I'll agree with you. I enjoyed creating my own weapons and renaming them and giving them different abilities and stats and improving certain things. Yeah, I loved having a shotgun that became like a laser rifle. It's like, oh, this is amazing. I loved it. But there's always something there that takes away from what I appreciate about like the new thing that they added to the game. What about you, John?
So I want to start off by saying that, it has that multiple point system, and I just hate that. It gives off a very microtransaction-y type vibe, and even if that isn't really what's happening here, I immediately stay away from it. Why can't it just be coins and guns cost this much? Like, it's so simple, just money and guns. I remember I started off, I'm still kind of confused about what some of the points mean and like whether it even fucking matters. But I did craft one gun, like when it first introduces the thing, and I guess I didn't understand it, and I crafted a really rare gun, or I bought to unlock a really rare gun, but I didn't have the materials to build it. So when that happened, I said, fuck this system, and just used the guns I had, powered up my grenade and force push stuff, and I was like, I'm doing fine. Like, I eventually found a really rare shotgun in the field, because I just pick up after enemies all the time. That's just what I do. So my shotgun is enough to take out most enemies in 2 hits, and I'm fine. So I'm just never going to touch that.
And you can get by with the base weapons too. And but another system that I did appreciate is if you don't want to, like, what we ended up doing is that we invested in the cryopod to give us research points periodically.
Well, just the Milky Way ones.
The Milky Way ones, and then we used a lot of Milky Way weapons.
That's right.
And then we sent out we upgraded our strike teams right away to have them go do that shit for us. So there is options in the cryopod thing to, like, hey, do you not want to mine for materials at all? Because that was another one we did earlier. I'm like, I'm not mining for shit. And it's like, here's a bunch of mining stuff you can do. Yes, give me that, because I don't want to mine shit.
Well, that you can just buy most of it later in the game, too.
Sure. And as far as that goes, the cryopod thing is supposed to be kind of their, I don't know, I guess it's their version of galactic readiness, which is kind of like, hey, unlock a bunch of cryopods and we'll have random loot drops and stuff for you, and research points and all that good jazz, and there'll be more people on the Nexus.
It's kind of like upgrading the Keep in Inquisition, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's supposed to give you a feeling of, like, progression and general accomplishment, but I so rarely ever visit the Nexus. I'm just like, I hate that place. So I never really get a sense of what I'm accomplishing there. Like, I only go there when I need missions, when I need to do mission stuff. But yeah, so there's that system if you wanna skip over some of the more tedious stuff. And I will say that for all the side missions, I will stick with this for all of the BioWare games actually, and especially Inquisition and this game. Break down like 20 of these side missions and just give me one more ally mission rather than like a bunch of these other fetch quests, because I'm sick of length being used to be like, look at all look at the amount of length you're getting from this game. I'm like, yeah, but I only sort of enjoy some of these submissions, and I know I would enjoy a fully rendered like a cutscene big mission with another character, even if I only get one versus like 20 other submissions. I don't know. What do you guys think about the like mini missions that you've played so far?
I mean, that's actually the one thing I've been thinking about the most, where I hate the fact that there's so much busy work in this game. How there's so many missions where I'm just like, scan 16 materials, and then come back to the Nexus, and then you'll get whatever for it, credits or something, and then, or you'll get like a bonus to your resource collecting. It's like, I hate that shit. Or some of these inconsequential things like, oh, could you drop off my dead brother's locket on the side of this hill? It's like, okay, I guess 200 experience points. Like, that doesn't tell me anything about like the game or the world or the
I'm
characters.
just the Pathfinder trying to find us a new home for this galaxy. But sure, I'll take out time of my busy schedule to drop off your goddamn brother's dog tags.
Yeah, that was just stuff like that I hated. But with the game, when it succeeded in side missions, was its loyalty missions, which are taken straight from Mass Effect 2, which is some of the best side missions like in any video game ever, because that was all character-based stuff. It's you interacting with your crew members and these other, like, these side villains or side rivals. It's like, Peebee's loyalty mission really kind of stood out to me, because you're dealing with someone from her past, and, there's a lot of different choices you have, how you kind of both, change her perspective on things, and also that, the fate of some characters in that mission. Or even like Liam, who I disliked thoroughly throughout the entire game until his loyalty mission was like, you know what, I've finally seen some of your charm, and yeah, you are funny in this type of scenario. Or even Drax missions, or Vetras. I liked all that stuff. It's like, you could have taken out, there's probably like, 200 technically side missions in the game, 160 of which are probably all, just like, go here, scan this, collect that. Like, you've taken all that out and just had like 40, or 30 side missions with like a nice long narrative, that went on for like an hour, like 45 minutes or maybe a little over an hour. I would have been perfectly fine with that. It's like, you don't need to increase the length of your game with all this busy work. It's just not necessary.
Yeah, I think I've said this either on mic or off mic to Chris before. Give me a tight 20. I want a tight 20-hour game. Don't give me 60 hours of padding. With these side missions, I'm never going to play them. I think I played a couple, and there was one that was actually kind of cool where someone's like locked up. They may or may not have killed their general, and it requires you to go to like a bunch of different planets. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. But when I finished it, it was like, that doesn't actually affect me or my comrades. That puts no weight on my actual plot line. And so
it will never be brought up again in any of the next 2 days.
Actually, it is relevant later on, because I found that guy in Kadara.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did you find him on Kadara? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I exiled him, and I found him later on in Kadara. It was actually kind of cool.
I suppose you never know, because Bioware has been known to do that, bring back side characters. Like, oh, you didn't think we'd bring back Captain Kirhi, did you?
But it's kind of like, that's a pick and choose situation. There's no way to determine straight up that guy is going to mean anything, and he doesn't feel like he means anything when you finish the mission. Whereas I do love the way they do kind of file format it, where there's your primary operations, there's your ally missions, and there's everything else. I see it as main story, cool side missions, junk. And I love that I could dictate, I'm not going to touch this shit. Like, I'm just going to invest in my allies who who feel like characters that are worth investing in, should I see fit. And I do love that I can pick and choose. Like, oh, I don't give a shit about Cora and never will? Okay, whatever. But I do, because I like her haircut.
She's got a nice butt. She's got
She's got Miranda's butt, but Dorian's haircut from Inquisition.
Yeah, she does, yeah.
But yeah, that's my thing, is just like, I'm never going to play these side missions because they are padding, and let's not really act like it's anything else other than padding. Why have wasted all that time giving us these fetch quests when you could have, I don't know, spent the time cleaning up animations or making the game look better and giving us really solid, thorough main missions and, what what are they called in Mass Effect 2? Loyalty quests.
Loyalty missions.
Those type of missions. It's like, why waste the time in the other, just to say your game is 60, not 40 hours? Like, I don't want that, and I never will.
You brought up the quest log before, how all your missions are kind of like in place in these different folders. Did anyone else find that extremely confusing? And like, I had no idea where all my
We
quests
lost
were?
quests multiple times. We're like, where's that quest? I cannot find it.
Oh, it's on the Tempest? Oh, the Tempest is a subset on the folder?
Which disappears if there's no quests in it.
Well, why is it not on with the allies and attributes one? Why is that one here? Fuck.
Yeah, that was incredibly frustrating. I'm like, how did this get worse as the game? In this game, but like on all the previous games, it was fine. At least I thought.
Oh, it's bad in one.
It's fine.
Because when they in Mass Effect 2 and 3 they have a much more linear format where you can just go, you can look just on the galaxy map like, here's the shit I need to do. And in this one, it's so fucking busy that you're like, I don't. Well, and then you have to look in the journal for whatever 1,000 of different subsets, a subset of tasks you have to do, and it won't show up on the galaxy map unless you highlight it in the journal first.
Unless it's a main quest or a story quest for a character.
Right, and then of course they patched it eventually, but it originally launched where you had to look at the planet, you had to zoom to the planet every time you travel to a different planet. So if you're going to do the scanning stuff, like scanning between planets, that takes forever.
Oh yeah, it does.
Which it looks cool for the first 3 times, and then you're like, wow, I wish I could skip this. And now you can finally skip them if they're in the same system that you're in.
Yeah, thank God.
There's a couple of questioning design decisions of like the menu system, the tutorials. I felt like the tutorials came 5 minutes after I learned a skill.
I think
the
they said
tutorial
that's
for it.
part of the patch was they fixed that.
Yeah,
but we can't really tell because we're past that point.
Yeah, we were way past that point. So, and they haven't patched it in a goddamn mini-map yet.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I really wish. If I could trade anything, I would trade Dead Eyes back if I could get a fucking mini-map, so I'm not constantly going into the menu to figure out where the fuck I am, where am I supposed to go, and how far is it. Especially when they give you multiple nav points, and it's just like your fucking compass, which is one of the most useless navigation compasses I've ever seen. Like, it doesn't tell you how far away anything is.
Until you're, like, right next to it.
Until you're right next to it, then it'll get bigger.
You have to be, like, within 100 meters, essentially.
And I'm like, guys, your game's about exploration. Why was this added in as a frustrating element? Like, this... And from a design perspective, I could see, like, oh, well, we wanted to give it to a more undiscovered feel. That's why we wanted to make it more of a compass rather than a plotted out map. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm just going to go to the fucking... pause menu and pause out to the big map anyway. Why not just make it a button to give it to come up? Like, the R3 button isn't doing anything when we're out of combat. Have the R3 button be a pop-up see-through map and do it that way so I'm not constantly... So it's one button. Make it as easy as possible for me.
No, because the R3 button is supposed to be fucking melee. Because that's how fucking games work, and it should not be the interact button.
Okay. Yeah,
because that causes me rage every single time. Like, oh, interact with this, punch. Well, interact with it, punch.
They listen to our concerns from Dragon Inquisition. Now the jump button is no longer the interact button.
True.
So we're not jumping at somebody trying to talk to them. Now we're trying to physically assault them every time we're trying to talk to them.
I prefer punching them instead, but I don't know.
That happens a lot, actually. I don't put my cursor a little lower so it says examine, so I just punch the air multiple times. Also, while we're complaining about controls, can someone tell me why holding the big touchpad in the PS4 is how you holster your weapon? Because that should easily be a map overlay button. That makes no fucking sense.
Well, see,
I bring up my scanner instead. My scanner holsters my weapons, and it's the down directional pad.
Yeah,
and it's way easier.
It is actually.
And as far as we're talking about the hold button as well, why isn't there, like, our dad writer shows off like, hey, I can switch between classes and skills like on the fly, and you're kind of like, whoa, that's rad, that's awesome. You can't do that unless you go right into the menu screen, change out your profile in the favorite screen, and you got to do a couple button presses to do it. So it becomes, it's just not worth doing it. So we just decided to stick with a class and stick with it. So there's not really a lot of incentive to try and spread your points out between different classes and use like, oh, this is the loadout I use for bosses, and this is the loadout I use for armored guys or whatever, and switch up your loadout on the fly if you're in trouble.
God, that would have been so cool. Now that you mention it, like using the directional pad to like save maybe 3 specific classes for situation. God, that's so easy. It's right there.
What they could have done is actually, because they have the mini menu, the mini wheel that shows your weapons, they can usually spend like, okay, now you press R2 to switch to a profile section.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank that shit.
Yeah.
Your secondary inventory.
Or just Inquisition did that with your powers.
And it's like, I wouldn't bring it up, except for the fact that they bring it up in the first part of the mission. We're like, look at this cool shit you're going to be able to do. Nuh-uh.
Well, we had the issue where we did actually save some profiles, and then it kept switching back to the other profile all the time. Like, no, we don't want to use that one. Stop doing that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, yeah. Oh man, I promised we're going to be fair and weren't going to bashing, but that last
they deserve
10 minutes was just for purely bashing. But yeah, that's design stuff that's kind of been there with BioWare a lot. They made that, like, a lot of this stuff did remind me of Inquisition and some of their previous stuff. Obviously, this is the first game that's felt this rush since Dragon Age 2, in my opinion.
Yes.
Which is weird because they should have had 5 years development on this game, which is what they say, but I doubt that. This feels more like we had initial production that probably lasted like 2 years before we really settled down on what we wanted to do, and then we probably had 3 to 2.5 years of development. Cause at least that's what it feels like to me. I don't know. I wasn't inside on the developer, side of it.
I mean, the one thing I would bring up is that this is not Bioware Edmonton that made this game. This is not Bioware proper. This is Bioware Montreal.
It's Bioware Montreal, right?
Who previously worked, their only experience on any games was they made the Omega DLC for Mass Effect 3, which was the weakest of the DLC. And they also created the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer stuff. So that was their only experience. With any.
Wow, how'd they fuck up the multiplayer this time around?
Yeah, who knows?
Because I like the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
Well, they also put a lot of like extra effort after the game came out in Mass Effect 3's.
That's right, because it was originally supposed to be a standalone thing, right? The multiplayer, but then it got woven into Mass Effect 3.
That.
Yes, yes. You can find footage online. There was going to be a first person Mass Effect shooter. But that got scrapped like years ago. But you can find it online.
Yeah, because EA got Battlefront.
Yeah, it looks like Halo or Battlefront, but with the what was it? Not Nomad. It's the Mako or whatever.
Yeah, the idea was it takes place during the first contact war between the humans and the Turians. So, which is a neat idea, which I kind of like. Sure.
Maybe down the line we'll get something akin to that. But yeah, and as far as the Nomad, we haven't even brought up the Nomad. Obviously an improvement on the Mako. I'm still confused why we don't just fly around in a shuttle. But since shuttles totally exist and we see them all the time. But obviously that's not what we're doing.
Nope.
That's not how it happens. But, the Nomad is pretty fine. It's functional. I like the fact that we can actually, switch modes of climbing on it. It handles better than the Mako because it almost has to.
It would be nearly impossible.
Because the only way to handle worse than the Mako would be literally to drive something without fucking wheels on it. But yeah. So let's go around and kind of answer. Does this game deserve as much hate as it's getting? Like, what do we think? Does it deserve all the hate or only some of it, or none at all? What are the opinions, Chris? What do you think?
I mean, I imagine that. If we were, outside of the game itself, I think there was some resentment from Mass Effect 3's ending still present there. I do
almost positively, yeah. I'm almost positive
that's there, and so BioWare was they're always gonna have to go up against that, and that's fine. But they had 5 years on this game, and there's no reason why this game shouldn't have been great. It should. That's what I expected. It should be no less than a great game. And it fell short in a number of ways. In a number of ways that BioWare is often very, good at in terms of its storytelling, in terms of its dialogue, in terms of its characters, in terms of its world building. It had some positive moments for each of those things, but it also fell flat in a lot of ways for those things too. So that was incredibly disappointing for me. Now, in terms of, like I said, in the combat, I do think this is the best combat the series has seen. Even though there are some weaknesses with it. And I guess it's just overall, I think it's just a mixed bag, and coupled with the fact that in the market that we are now for like RPGs and what we expect from RPGs, like we have something like Horizon Zero Dawn or Zelda Breath of the Wild, and these games probably.
I've actually been playing Persona 5 last couple days.
Oh God!
Big AAA JRPGs like Persona 5.
I need it.
These games had just as long development cycles as Mass Effect Andromeda, and yet Mass Effect Andromeda just doesn't compare to any of those games whatsoever.
There's a distinct lack of polish on it.
That's the thing.
That is surprising.
There is a distinct lack of polish, and I don't understand why you had all this time for it. Yeah, maybe you said maybe it was like 2 years of production where it's like, yeah, we were thinking for 2 years what we're going to finally do, and then maybe 3 or 2.5 years to finally make it. But it's like this. I don't know. Personally, I don't believe that. I think that this game has had a long development cycle, but maybe it's because.
Do you think it was a suffering feature creep? A little bit, like they were trying to add in a little too much.
I think it was too much for a team that probably just didn't have enough experience. I would have preferred had Bioware Edmonton, develop this game. Maybe Edmonton wanted to take a step back after Mass Effect 3. They kind of told their story and they want to move on to something else. So I get that, but at the same time, it's like I wouldn't have given it to such a freshman studio. It's such a big IP, probably Bioware's biggest IP. Next to Dragon Age, and in terms of just renown, probably since like Knights of the Old Republic. It's very odd. So yeah, for everything the game does right, it also does a lot of things wrong. And even though I haven't completed it yet, I don't know if we're giving ratings right now, but for now, I don't think it's a game that is worth like paying full price for at the moment. And that hurts me to say, especially as a lifelong Mass Effect fan. But I think it also says a lot. The fact that I am such a Mass Effect fanboy, well, I will admit that this game has many flaws. Some of them are just kind of unforgivable. But that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I think what Nick said about the Mako, is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, the
original one.
Oh,
the Nomad's the new one.
The
Nomad's the new one.
See, I just forget. I don't even know who director.
Nomad, by the way.
I don't remember who Addison is, by the way. Like I know you guys.
Tired face woman.
I don't
My
remember.
face is tired?
I don't remember. But what you said,
You don't remember my face is tired?
I just don't. What you said about the Nomad though being functional is very much what I think about this game in a weird way. Like it does what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to come out and it was supposed to work to a degree and like get to an end and like continue put out a name for this quarter to get EA some revenue.
It beat a bar. We're just not sure how high that bar was.
Yeah, and I guess for me, this, like I said, this is a story all about expectations, and I will say I don't think the hate is as deserved as it's getting. Same way as I'll say this right now, I don't think the love for Zelda is as big as it's getting. I think Zelda is great, but greatest game of all time. I think it had a bar. It's like, is Zelda? It's going to be this, and when it passed, it was like, oh my gosh. When Mass Effect, it had a bar. It has to at least be this, and when it missed it, it's like, this fucking sucks. I think we talked about something similar when Last Guardian came out, and you were just like, I think people just are loving on this game because it's supposed to be good.
Yeah, and this game is awful.
And it's not good. And it's this talk about expectation and what we say about name brand titles. And I try and come into game franchises outside of Kingdom Hearts or Jak and Daxter, like without any sort of muddied eyes. The same way I like to go into movies is like, I don't care who the fucking director is. Does this trailer look cool? Okay. Whereas I think this game, it works and it does what it's supposed to do. I don't think it's $60, but I would never pay $60 for this kind of game anyway, especially when something more interesting to me, like a ukulele or something weird like a Persona 5, or something right up my alley like a Horizon Zero Dawn and Legend of Zelda, when those are out. That's another thing. This game came out during, and I'll say, I think this will hold true in the future, the hottest first half of a year in gaming history.
There's been some stiff competition.
This is the hottest 4 months in gaming history.
This generation, I'd say that. I'm gonna say.
I don't know.
We can have some discussion.
We got RE4. We got RE4. Zelda, probably the best Zelda. Like that's saying something, but depending on the kind you want. Ocarina. Oh yeah, I guess it's Ocarina. Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, which is apparently hot shit.
Smaller titles as well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, and the Mass Effect just kind of slumps. And I think if it wasn't as hot, first few quarters, and it wasn't Mass Effect, we would have given it a pass. It would have been like, this is fine. It's okay. It does what it needs to do. It's like in the 6-7 range, which doesn't bother me. But since you guys are diehard Mass Effect fans, I can see why you would be like physically upset.
Yeah.
It's a little disheartening. But Travis, you were gonna say something?
Well, it's kind of interesting too because the fact that it's doing so poorly in comparison to like Persona 5 is surprising because the JRPG has been dying lately, like pretty hard. Whereas this game should have been easily been so popular, whereas like Persona 5 is getting rave reviews and this game's like been hated on. It's just kind of weird. I think a big problem with people's expectations of this game is that it is not the same as the original trilogy. The original Mass Effect trilogy is Star Wars.
Yep.
This is more Star Trek.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, you're absolutely right. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say, the original Mass Effect trilogy, it had the world of Star Trek, but the heart of Star Wars. Whereas this has the world of Star Trek and the heart of Star Trek. And I always associate Star Trek with being cold. And this game is cold. But continue with what you're saying.
No, that's very much the point, is that this game is more about exploration, sometimes to its detriment. But it's got that more interesting where it's like, oh, we have met new races, we actually interact with them, in a diplomatic fashion rather than, hey, there's a Turian, let's fuck them up during a battle. It just feels different enough that I feel like that's caused a bit of just concern with the players. This game still got released way too early. Like, we've seen what happens 2 weeks later, it already looks so much better that I'm just like, nah, you guys should just take an extra...
And they didn't even change that much.
No.
That was the thing, is they didn't change that much, and the vast difference that it made.
Right.
Like,
imagine if they would just put it off for another year.
God damn it.
And another thing, too, like I said, with this being released during such a hot year, this has been like... somebody dropping their movie the same day a Marvel releases theirs. Like, why would you do that? That's a terrible idea. Don't you want to make money?
Yeah, looking your way, Justice League open up two weeks after Thor Ragnarok.
Well, to be fair, Marvel usually seems rather spiteful about that.
Sure. Well, I'll say this. I agree with all of your points, and I'm going to add this on top. This game does not deserve the amount of hate that it's getting, and I will defend this game rather than, say, Iron Fist. I don't think Iron Fist deserves all the hate that it's getting, but I won't defend it because it's still a piece of shit. Because it's like, oh, it's not that bad, but it's like, instead of a 1 out of 5, it's a 2 out of 5, so I'm not gonna fight anyone over it.
It's not what it should be.
Yes, this game, I think it comes to being a good game, but everyone was expecting BioWare level, really like, man, they release, it's like Pixar's Cars to me, where it's like, well, this is nice, but
again, functional.
If DreamWorks made Cars, you'd be like, "That's a great DreamWorks movie." But Pixar did it, so you're like, "Wow, they're slumming it." It's all about expectations, I think. And this one, I get that everyone's mad, but let's also be mad that this has happened with a lot of other AAA releases, like see Batman Arkham Knight. Hey, this is happening on a much more regular basis, and we need to be mad every time, not just selectively, so that they stop doing it.
Stop using us as beta testers.
Oh, and also, we didn't even mention any of the political stuff of it, but like the social justice warrior, like, is social justice ruining Mass Effect? No, it's not. They didn't make the characters ugly on purpose, or whatever, to fit some agenda, or whatever crazy fucking theory that's out there.
No, the characters are just ugly, that's all. That's just the poor character animations.
Yeah.
I will say this about the gamers, though, playing this game. Fuck everyone who doesn't like this game, who decided to spoil parts of it because they didn't like it.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
I had a major element for me spoiled because I dared to look on Twitter to see some of the facial animations. Someone put it into a compilation of facial animations that were fucked up, but used almost all endgame stuff with big plot points. And the fucked up thing about it is that those animations weren't even nearly that bad as the beginning of the game stuff. And I'm like, why did you go out of your way to spoil that? There were plenty of examples from the beginning of the game where I wouldn't have cared about the story. Like, the fact that you don't like a game gives you the right to be a dick about it. God damn. But also, I don't know, I'm sitting at like a 6 and 7, but I won't know until I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I can't give it, like, if it really ends strong, maybe I'll give it an 8. Like, if it really opens up to where, like, ooh, this has a lot of potential for the next game. But I kind of doubt it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's where I'm sitting right now, and we'll revisit at some point.
If BioWare's smart, they won't continue this story with the Ryder family.
Do you think they won't continue it?
No, they won't. I was under the impression that this was going to be a one-off type of story where they're going to start to apply the kind of the Dragon Age formula where you're going to follow a new protagonist for each game. So here was the Riders, and like now, because they didn't want to be kind of tied down to tell this one kind of massive trilogy following this one character. So maybe they're going to take. I mean, my biggest fear at this point is that the Mass Effect brand has been so dirtied by, one, the controversy of the Mass Effect 3 ending, which, to a certain extent, I think has been, Bioware Edmonton did a lot of good to make that, that hard pill to swallow, easier to swallow, fixing the extended cut and then doing the Citadel DLC. But some people, there's still that resentment there. But with Mass Effect Andromeda, it's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm fearful that they might not even continue the series, like at this point, because of just how sullied it's been. But if they were to continue it on, I don't think it'll have any connection to Andromeda. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to the Milky Way galaxy stuff after this.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree. I was always on that train. It was like, well, they said we're going to make a trilogy out of this. I'm like, we'll see. I've heard that, like, we're not going to go back to Shepard. We're not going to go back to the Milky Way. I'm like, I've heard that a lot. I've heard that about, like, we're not going to make a Halo game with Master Chief in it anymore, or like.
We're not gonna make another Shrek movie.
Yeah, we're not gonna make another Shrek.
Solid Snake's dead, guys. Like,
Solid. Oh, he's really dead this time. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll believe it when I see it. So yeah, the only thing keeping us from going back to Shepard and back into the Milky Way is one producer at EA or one executive at EA going, hey, this is how much we could have made if it was Shepard instead of this other chick, or instead of this other character. Oh, we'll do that next time. Yep. Like, they're one executive decision away from it. And you also got to remember that a lot of this I feel like is maybe EA breathing down their necks with, like, because I haven't played the romances between all the other characters and stuff, but apparently the gay and bisexual romances get grayed out, while the heterosexual romances get a full actual sex scene out of it.
I mean, I doubt they're very good sex scenes to begin with, given the animation, but
sure. And
I don't even get a sex scene with Vetra, by the way. She just hugs me and kind of rubs me. It's just like, what's happening? And then just cuts to black. It's like, oh, we having sex
to black.
Now? Is this how Turians have sex? It's like, okay.
I think it makes noises, like kissing noises during the loading screen.
Yeah, it's true.
That's like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you infer.
Yeah.
God, that's sweet.
You infer that the chitness plates come off her to reveal her.
That's sweet. That sweet carapace.
Yes.
Carapace ass. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I can't speak to it because I haven't seen them all. I've seen a couple online. I looked up some of them up. I kind of like, which it's a shame because if we don't see Ryder again, I kind of like Ryder as a character.
Yeah, I do too.
I kind of like how her the character arc is. We are totally underqualified for this, and we have to kind of earn and learn our way to do it.
And everyone's kind of sarcastic,
and everyone kind of disrespects us at first, and we're like, Ryder's kind of like socially awkward in a lot of ways, to the point where some people were saying that they were identifying her as like that she seems autistic, which I've had experience with. I've had experience with autistic children, and I'm like, no, she has social awkwardness, and I'm like, well, she might, like, because the spectrum is such a wide thing, she might be on it on a very light scale, but for the most part, I don't think it was anything intentional. But if an autistic player would like to read that into the character, I think that's fine. Go have at it.
I mean, I just interpret it as the voice actress was terrible. Because I thought...
Oh, really?
I thought... Yeah, that's why I started... Because I did like two... playthroughs. Initially, I wanted to start as the male character, but then I went back to doing the female character, and I thought the female voice actress is really bad in this game. I don't know who she is, but yeah, I just like some of her deliveries. Just I'm like, oh my god, you just reading this off a cue card and just like either no emotion or so much emotion. It's like this doesn't fit the scene at all. Where at least I thought the male voice actor he did a pretty good job, and I will agree. I thought that Ryder for the most part has more of a personality than Shepard did. But at the same time, I still felt more connected to my Shepard because just of the experiences I had in the entire trilogy. So that's just me.
And you get a longer time to spend with them too.
Sure,
so it's I think if we switch it up, though, they have the conflict of like what the Dragon Age characters are, is that you don't get as a big sense of what your character is all about in the Dragon Age games because you only get one game with them, so it's harder. But yeah, other than that, I think I only had one more story I wanted to talk to you guys because I wanted to mention the main team. They're working on their new IP, as well as there's you hear these new rumors going around about what the Bioware might be working on next.
That might be a new MMO, right?
No. Well, there's those rumors too.
Okay.
But also, there's apparently that they've learned that Bioware Austin might be working on some new Star Wars games, and they might be remaking, if not just rebooting, the KOTOR games.
Really?
That's the rumor going around. It's not official. That's just what I hear through the grapevine. What do you guys think about that?
I thought I had seen somewhere that it was debunked, but I may have. Yeah, Chris is nodding his head. Yes, it was.
Was it debunked?
Yeah, it was debunked.
Damn it!
You know, Chris dug into that the instant he saw it.
I haven't had a chance to hunt down the rabbit hole yet. So is it been debunked, Chris?
Yeah, it has been debunked. What they said is like, well, I forget the guy who said it. It's like, I didn't so much say that we're working on a KOTOR reboot, but that's something that we could possibly look into, something like that. Or I mean, we know that that one of the Bioware teams is going to be working on a Star Wars game, but they haven't definitively said whether it's going to be KOTOR or anything like that. And now it's pretty much been debunked so far. So I would wait until something official comes out. It's like my whole thing is I don't know if they're going to go to Knights of the Old Republic. With the MMO already out, it's like, especially if Austin, I'm just not sure. Like they're still developing stuff for the Old Republic MMO.
Yeah. Had Edmonton really proved themselves with this one, or is it Montreal? Montreal. Had Montreal proved themselves with this one, I think EA would have been like, "You guys just remake KOTOR for us."
Yeah.
Because I see Edmonton as just like, we just need you to do stuff while the main team works on a really big franchise, and the Austin team, brings us in money with that MMO. But you just do whatever we need you to do. So.
All right, yeah, so that's disappointing. I was kind of hoping that, but the new team, the A team is working on their new IP, whatever that is. So I'm excited to see that. I'd like to see what BioWare has. I think that's it would probably be good to get away from the established franchises for a bit and make something completely different. I'm hoping that invigorates a little creativity and lights the spark underneath them a little bit.
Give me a noir game. That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, I think they
BioWare noir game.
Didn't they say that it'd be like a game that takes place in modern times? I believe, like in our type of society.
Ooh.
I thought that was something like that what they were talking about.
I don't think they'd mentioned. I think it just said something they'd never done before.
Yeah, I've never done before. So I mean, who knows? I'm definitely more excited for that game, because at least it's going to be something new and it has the best team on it. So it's like,
and we won't have such an established trilogy to compare it to.
No stigma on it.
So it'll have an easier curve, I think, an easier grading curve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but with that, I think we can wrap it up here. We've been going on for over an hour, and man, it's so much fun talking with you guys. Like we gotta stop having them on here, otherwise we're just gonna keep. Otherwise, they're gonna come on and one day just not leave.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us and talking for us some Mass Effect Andromeda. Great fun as always. Like to see the. I mean, a little bit sad since most of us got disillusioned by it, and John's just like, meh. So I'm glad one of us came away without too many mental scars.
Yeah.
But in case the people want to check out your stuff, want to plug where they can find you just one more time?
Sure. Well, you can find our podcast on oneofus.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at WeAreErrorCast, and you can follow me at Chris J. Herman.
You can follow me at #1 Sonic Chronicles fanboy. I'm at _John Romo, no H. I just always, every time we talk BioWare, I love to bring up Sonic Chronicles because Chris, for some reason, just doesn't want to know it exists.
Never happened.
And again, if you want to check out our stuff, our Mass Effect Let's Plays, they're going to be up on YouTube in a little bit. I got some editing to do, along with some new stuff like some Abzu and even some Enter the Gungeon.
Yes.
Now that John mentioned it. We got some of that to put up.
Boy, when you guys come down for that anime con, we gotta get our Gungeon on.
We're gonna get our Gungeon on. Let's do it. Let's do a Let's Play together on it. That'll be fantastic. I will totally be down for that. But until then, and until next time, we're going to go to cut to a small musical break. We'll be back to our regular schedule of programming right after this.
Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this and see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm lying. But I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Don't put your blame on me.
And we're back. Wasn't that a great talk, Travis?
You lied. There was no talks of jazz. I remember nothing of this.
No talk. Well, just good jazz. Maybe it was some good, some bad jazz that we ended up talking about. But you never know what you're gonna get until you do it. But yeah, that was an absolutely fun time. Thank you again for the We Are Here guys for coming on and talking with us about some more Mass Effect. Maybe one of these times we'll have them on and talk about something else. But
where's the fun in that? Wait, we should talk Dragon Age.
Yeah, we should talk Dragon Age with them. We'll talk Jade Empire. No one's talking about Jade Empire anymore,
right?
But yeah, they of course were fantastic as always. Always love recording with those guys. Can't wait to meet them when we end up going to Anime Austin. That'll be a fun time.
That's coming up in a couple months.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, we are thankful for them to taking out the time of their busy schedule. Make sure you go and check out their stuff on their channel at oneofus.net. And if you want to check out some of our previous crossover content with them, you can check out our previous episode of Video Game Controversies. We had them on, and way back when at episode 50 was our big Mass Effect episode where we talked about the whole original trilogy, and we had them on to talk about that as well.
And our hopes for Andromeda.
And our hopes for Andromeda. Man, maybe I should go back and listen to that and hear the wistful.
We were so young.
Yeah, the wistful hopes of. Well, Chris was the one that was really he was really up on it and really excited, and he got me excited. So I'll be interested to go back and see what we thought of on that. But yes, as far as it goes, dear listener, we are going to bring this episode to an end. If you want to get into contact with us, you can hit us up on our Facebook at Unapologetic Geek Out, and of course our Twitter is at UGO Podcast. Follow us on there. And if you want to help out the podcast, give us a 5-star review on iTunes, help out our visibility a little bit. We will read whatever goes in that review box on the air word for word. That is my guarantee. So if you want to put in your ideas for why your face is tired, there's multiple reasons it could be. I don't know, animation glitches, story plot holes. A lot of things make your face tired. So I would like to hear what that is, and I will read that, of course, if you put it in the review box. But with that, I think we can just bring this one to an end, right? And let's get out of this Andromeda galaxy, go back to the Milky Way.
I like that one better.
It's tastier, that's for sure. It's named after a tastier substance, because who wants to eat an Andromeda? Nobody. I don't know what it is either. But with that, we are Unapologetic Geek Out, and we're out.